Movie buffs, welcome back to the Movie Bay. This is D. In today's video, we're going to do Director Spotlight number 3. Featuring one of my favorites. Well, all of these guys in the Director Spotlight will be my favorites. I will try not to put a spotlight on directors that I don't consider favorites. Some more than others. But Ridley Scott is one of my favorites. So without further ado, let's dive in and take a look at 10 awesome movies from Ridley Scott. Starting with Black Hawk Down. Black Hawk Down came out in 2001, and Black Hawk Down is basically about a conflict that happened in 1993 where a special U.S. force, a Delta Force you might call it, went over to capture or eliminate a Somalian warlord. Fantastic movie. What I loved about this movie is the way it looked, the way it sounded connected to. Now, when I first got this movie, it was on DVD, way back in the DVD era. And it sounded so good. I had a simple Dolby 5.1 setup at the time I had an apartment, and it sounded so good. This was one of the best sounding movies in my collection at the time. And it looked good. The color grading with the movie, everything about this movie, I just loved it visually and audio. Now, I got it on Blu-ray. It looks better, and it sounds a little bit better because I think I got a better system nowadays. But I'm dying to see what this one is like on 4K. Anyway, 1982's Blade Runner featuring Harrison Ford. Great movie, great story. It holds up. This is a movie you can still watch. This movie is 41 years old, and it still holds up. It looks fantastic. Great movie. I love Blade Runners, a classic. Next up, we probably have my favorite Ridley Scott movie of all times. We got to see. I got to dive through and really look at all my Ridley Scott stuff, but so far, I would have to say this is my favorite. 2000s Gladiator featuring Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, and a host of others. The talent level, the acting in this movie, the writing, the story, everything about this movie to me was perfect. This was the perfect movie. To me, nothing was missing from this movie. I absolutely love this movie. It is definitely heavy in my rotation. So you got Russell Crowe plays the role of Maximus, who's like the general of the army. And you got Joaquin Phoenix, who's the son of the king. The king dies, and he leaves, of course. Joaquin Phoenix is the prince, so through succession, he becomes the king. And he's jealous. He's always been jealous of Maximus. I get it because Maximus was really close to the father, and the father called Maximus his son. But Maximus did a lot for Rome. He did a lot for his kingdom. He really did. And he did more for the kingdom than the son did. But that's jealousy for you. Real quick, if you watch this movie, then you turn around and watch Road to Perdition, you're going to see how jealousy plays a role in both of these movies. But Gladiator is just a hell of a movie. And I know you've seen this, but let's just say, for instance, you one of those few people who didn't see Gladiator. You need to check this one out. You guys know when I say it like that, I mean you need to go check this out. Straight up. Next up from Ridley Scott, we have the original Alien from 1979. This was a good movie. I enjoyed it. My favorite in the entire Alien first 4 films was the second one, Aliens. But I call it Alien 2. That's my favorite. But again, Alien was a good movie. It was more of a horror movie than all the rest of them, but it was good. But again, my favorite was Aliens. But I'm not going to sit and take anything away from Alien. It's definitely a banging movie and a great Ridley Scott movie. Next up, we're going to take a look at another movie that this movie, I enjoyed this movie. I think I watched it about 3 times. It's a very powerful movie, and I think Demi Moore did a fantastic job in this movie. And watching this movie, I don't think anybody else could have did this movie better than her. And there's a lot of great actresses in Hollywood. Probably not as many as it is today, back when this movie was done. We're talking about 1997's G.I. Jane. Of course, it was a lot of great female talent, but it's over the years, there's been a lot more great female talent in Hollywood. But at the time, I couldn't really imagine anyone else other than Demi Moore doing this movie. Now, if they was to redo this movie, which I know they wouldn't, I could see a lot of potential talent playing the role of G.I. Jane. But for now, Demi Moore killed it in this role. Fantastic movie. I really enjoyed G.I. Jane. Next up, we're going to take a look at, again, Man, Ridley Scott, he got some beggars, y'all. I'm telling you. And I think you guys know that. We're going to go to 2001's Hannibal. What can I say? What can I say? Anthony Hopkins, Julianne Moore. This movie is all that. Straight up. It's a good movie. I mean, when you talk about the Hannibal Lecter series of movies, there's not a lot that could be said. Everybody know the deal. You know what I mean? Hannibal. Here's one that caught me off guard when it came out. And just the talent. I'll tell you the talent before I tell you the movie. Matt Damon, Adam Driver, Jodie Comer, and Ben Affleck. I mean, The Last Duel. I love this movie. I was pulled into this movie from the very first trailer, and I followed this movie all the way through. I didn't go to the theaters to see it. I'm not really a heavy theater guy no more. I used to be. But I'm not really into that no more because I collect so many movies. I always got something new to watch, so I don't feel compelled to go to the theaters nowhere near as much as I used to. I go if the wife or the kids want to go, but my kids, for the most part, now are grown, so when they want to go, they go with their friends or they go with their little boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever. They don't want to go to sit in the movies with they pops no more, but The Last Duel, fantastic movie, and I've been following this one, and when it came out on home release, I was able to jump right on it. This is a great, great movie, and the talent in this movie. And the thing is, when you got a movie with this much talent in it, sometimes that's a gift and sometimes that's a curse. And this movie is a definite gift. The star power in this movie really takes it up a notch. The Last Duel. And that was I'm sorry, guys, this came out in 2021. So it's a fairly new movie. This is the newest movie on this list. Next up, we got a classic. Susan Sarandon, Gina Davis, my girls. I'm telling you, I love both of them. Gina Davis, what I loved about her, what movie I really loved from her was The Long Kiss Goodnight. And Susan Sarandon, The Stepmom. The Stepmom. That movie right there. I love that movie, man. Look. All right, anyway. This is Thelma Louise. Thelma Louise came out in 1991, so this movie is about 32 years old. And it still holds up really good. Fantastic movie. I enjoyed Thelma and Louise. Next up, we got 2015's Matt Damon in The Martian. This was a solid movie. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say I was head over heels for it. A lot of people love this movie. It sits at a very high 8.0 on IMDb, I do believe. Like an 8.0. So a lot of people like this movie. The critics like this movie. I thought it was a good movie. I didn't see what everybody else saw in it. Everybody else saw something different in this movie, and that happens. But I did like it, though. I'm not going to take a dump on it. It was a good movie. And last but not least, we're going to take a look at 07's American Gangster featuring Denzel Washington, the legendary, the man, the myth, the legend, Denzel Washington, and Russell Crowe. This was a good movie based on a true story, based on the life of Frank Lucas, who was a real dude. He really did what was portrayed in the movie. Now, it's a movie. I'm quite sure some things were exaggerated, but as far as the $1 million a day and all that shit, all that was real. This man was making $1 million a day. And he was completely under the radar. Nobody knew who he was. He slipped up one time, like we saw in the movie. He slipped up, and he was given a real account of this. He probably would have stayed under the radar for a lot longer had he not flaunted his wealth by going to that fight with that chinchilla on and all of that. He immediately, back then, black guys driving Cadillacs, that wasn't a big thing. That really wasn't a big thing. That's not what got him. Driving Lincolns and Cadillacs, that's not what got him. He went in there with chinchilla head to toe. I think he had on shoes made out of some exotic skin. And the police was there, and they immediately drew attention to him and wanted to know more. So that's what I'm saying. If you live in that dirty life, you don't want to draw attention to yourself. Driving a nice car is one thing. A lot of people drive nice cars. A lot of working class people drive nice cars. But when you start rocking chinchilla and all that kind of crazy stuff, basically, he blew his own cover. Frank Lucas was living that life, making $1 million a day. Nobody knew who he was, completely undercover. And he did a good job at being low-key. His whole, I ain't going to call it a career, but his whole life of, his whole seedy underworld life, he did a good job at keeping a low profile till he slipped up that one time and he went to that game with all that crazy shit on. American Gangster. So that's it, guys. That's 10 great movies from Ridley Scott. I really enjoyed Ridley Scott's film. He's got an amazing filmography, and that's going to wrap it for this one. I want to tell you who's coming up next, so you guys can get excited for who's coming up. So we just did Ridley Scott. Next up, we're going to be doing Michael Bay. Yeah. So we're going to take a look at 10 great films from Michael Bay. And this is the Movie Bay, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.